Okay.
Hello and welcome to our editorial spotlight event, Stronger Me in 2023. I'm your host, Anna Medaris, a healthcare correspondent here at Insider. At Insider, we cover health from multiple angles, and on top of mind for a lot of us at the beginning of the year is how to be a better version of ourselves. So today we want to talk about how to be a stronger you. And strength in 2023 isn't just about muscle building, it's about challenging the status quo to be the best you. So today I'm joined by a great mix of panelists, including Jessamine Stanley, an inclusive yoga teacher, Anna Sweeney, a non-diet dietitian, and James Swanwick, an alcohol-free coach and entrepreneur, for what I hope is going to be a lively and insightful conversation. Just a little bit of background or a little housekeeping, feel free to submit some audience questions using the Zoom Q&A widget. We'll try to kind of monitor that throughout the conversation and answer questions as they come in, as they're relevant. And I'll try to leave a couple minutes at the end for follow-up questions and conversation. The whole thing should last about 30 to 40 minutes. And you can follow along as well using the hashtag Insider Events. So let's get started. I'll let each of you introduce yourselves a little bit more. Why don't you, say your titles and kind of what you do, but paint us a little bit of a picture of kind of what your daily lives are like. What does it mean to be an inclusive yoga teacher, for example? What does that look like in the day-to-day? And then also tell us what your definition of strength is at this point in time. Anna, why don't we kick it off with you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Sweeney. I am an eating disorder registered dietitian, and I practice from a fat positive and as inclusive as possible lens. I am really, really excited to be here with you today. I think this is such a tricky time of year because messaging about health and wellness and all of the noise that gets recycled every single January is here, and it's still loud. So when I think about strength, I'm actually thinking about individuation and having the ability to trust oneself and to come back to what we know, even if it means actively needing to unlearn, actively needing to disengage from messaging that really isn't designed for human consumption. It's designed for an industry to get propped up and make a lot of money. And my hope is that you will find strength in getting to know yourselves more this year.
Love that. Such a cool phrase. I think we'll come back to the unlearning concept. James, how about you?
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. I am an alcohol-free lifestyle coach. So I help mostly executives, business owners, entrepreneurs, but the world at large really to have a better relationship with alcohol. I stopped drinking in 2010 for lifestyle reasons. And now I coach people how to rewire their mindset around alcohol, which I consider to be nothing more than attractively packaged poison. There is a real tidal wave of cultural change that is happening right now in relation to people's perception of alcohol. And millennials have never drunk less. A Nielsen study recently said 60% of Americans want to reduce or stop drinking alcohol. There's never been more alcohol-free alternatives on the market. And, just anecdotally, I posted an Instagram post 2 days ago saying that alcohol's reputation is crumbling. And it's 1 million plus views now, has been shared all over the world. Nothing to do with my video, but the sentiment, the idea that the reputation of alcohol is really under threat as people choose healthier lifestyle and make healthier choices. In relation to strength, for me, it's generating clarity, focus, and energy. It's always trying to practice conscious communication, trying to be in integrity. And those kind of values are what I really try to implement in my daily life. So that's what I think of when I think of strength.
Love it. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. So we're all on the same page and kind of coming back to ourselves and, removing a lot of this cultural messaging, whether it's around diet culture or alcohol. So Jessamine, tell us a little bit how you fit in.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jessamine Stanley. I am a yoga teacher and an author and an entrepreneur. I'm the co-founder of The Underbelly, which is a wellness community where you can practice yoga and meditation with me anywhere, anytime, all over the globe. And I'm also the author of the books Everybody Yoga and Yoke, My Yoga of Self-Acceptance. And I think that being an inclusive yoga teacher, it's so weird to call myself a yoga teacher because I really think of myself truly as a practitioner and that all of my teaching practice just comes from living. And I think that when you say that you're a yoga teacher, people are like, how many classes do you teach every week? And what do you do? I'm like, I live the yoga of my life, which is a lot of entrepreneurial hustle as we all ultimately live. And I think that for me, strength, I was so glad to hear the word integrity because I think that that really is what strength is, to be able to speak and live truth to power. But I also think that there is this piece of acceptance that we're all so unwilling to do frequently. So it's so hard to accept the harder things about ourselves, the things that we don't like, the shadow. And I think that being able to incorporate the strength, incorporate the acceptance of all the hard things, being able to really step into that is what strength ultimately looks like. That I think that we think of strength as being like polished and pretty and like shiny. And I think ultimately any shine is the callus from the wounds that had to heal, because ultimately to be strong is to look at every single part of yourself, the good and the bad, the ugly, and to accept it fully.
Wow, that's powerful. And it does kind of fly in the face of the new year, new you messaging. I mean, we're talking about, we don't necessarily want a new you, a new me. We want to actually find the true me with its goods and its bads. So it sounds great, but like, how do we actually do that? That's hard work. I'll just go back down the line, start with Anna again. I mean, do you have kind of some tangible tips for how people can kind of return to some of their inner wisdom?
So I'm going to speak specifically here about food and body image. Both of these things are these are the things that I wrestle with my clients every day. I think when it comes to the way that a human chooses to nourish themselves, I would really like to just offer a really gentle reminder that your relationship with food is yours, right? Like uniquely yours. And so when new year, new you messaging comes up, this is a time where there's an industry, literally an industry that is behind, everything. People are making money based on our collective insecurity and profiting from the idea that if you eat like me, move like me, you'll look like me and have, the whatever promised life that really isn't attainable for anyone except for that one particular, filtered human on the gram that is presenting themselves in one kind of way. I think it's a really important thing for us to come back to the fact that we know ourselves, we know what works for our bodies more than any diet is ever going to know works specifically for our bodies. There is no way in the world that every single human on the planet is intolerant of the same 30 foods. It is illogical. It doesn't make sense. And mostly, I think we as a culture actually could do a lot of good by giving ourselves permission to actually eat and probably eat more, right? We are a culture that starts, and there are new guidelines in America right now that have just been passed talking about putting little kids on diets, we need to eat. We need permission to eat. And if I have the ability to grant that permission to one human, then I have done my job.
Cool. Thank you. James, how about you? Tell us, what are some kind of tangible ways people can get in touch with their inner strength?
Well, for me, I'm somewhat biased because I'm an alcohol expert, or more appropriately, not a stop drinking alcohol expert. For me, most people, when they're drinking alcohol or they're eating the wrong types of foods, maybe processed foods, maybe they have some kind of addiction, we're not in touch with ourselves, right? We're numbing ourselves from our true self. So in order to create the best version of ourselves, we need to have clarity, we need to have energy and focus. And sadly, most of what I perceive is what society is encouraging us to digest is not giving us clarity and energy and focus. Again, I am biased towards alcohol, but alcohol creates fogginess. It's a distraction. It destroys your sleep. It can cause depression, or at least make you feel depressed, if not totally depression, sad. And they did a study out of the UK in this time last year, in March 2022, that showed even one seemingly innocent glass of alcohol per night, so just 7 standard drinks per night, was enough to destroy white and gray matter in the brain. The bumper sticker is drinking alcohol causes brain damage. Now, not so much brain damage that it's, what we would ordinarily think of brain damage, but it's damaging the brain. And so I would just encourage anyone who does drink to really reduce, if you think you're drinking a lot, and maybe even ponder trying and experimenting with an alcohol-free lifestyle, because it's very challenging to get in touch with yourself. It's very challenging to be clear and focused and to be in integrity and to be the best version of yourself and for your family and for your friends and your staff and whoever else is in your world, when you are digesting something that we just know slows us down and holds us back and isn't good for us. So yeah, I'm not saying buy this and eat this and do this. I'm saying get rid of this. I'm saying reduce this attractively packaged poison that society has had us believe for so many years is something desirable. It means we're all kind of bowing down and worshiping at this thing that represents fun and connection, and it's preposterous. And so reducing that, having a better relationship with that, I think is really going to make profound changes in people's lives.
Yeah, and that really is something quite tangible. It's we want, you hear a lot meditate, and which is all good, but it's or I can throw away the booze for a little bit and just kind of see what happens. I was on a TV show earlier today talking about Dry January. So good timing for sure. And hopefully something that people will kind of continue to question as the year goes on, and not just, and it definitely is a trend that we're seeing in a good way, that people are, there's other ways to have fun. Jessamine, tell us kind of how people can get in touch with the strength that you're talking about.
I think that everyone's journey is so unique to them, and what we each need on an individual basis is going to vary day by day, week by week, month, year. I think that having practices in place that are, you can call them rituals, they can be literally it's whatever works for you, but having things that are consistently tapping you back to your inner child, remembering that there is light and luminance within you. I can only speak for myself, but I know it to be crucial in how I'm able to access my own strength. And that it's not I feel I know we're going to talk more about new year, new me, and I have a lot of varied opinions about this, but I think that the only time of the year that we really focus on okay, I'm going to set some new patterns in motion is the beginning of the year. And I think that with any kind of self-care practice that is returning you to your child within, you have to return to that every single day to some degree. And you have to find the practices that work for who you really are and not who you think you should be. I think that sometimes we're like trying to cultivate an idea of who our best self would be instead of accepting every single piece of who we actually are. And just to be like really specific, I'm a yoga teacher, so I would say yoga, obviously, but it really doesn't need to be like yoga or meditation. Sometimes some people's yoga is literally like not spending time around people that draw out their energy, like noticing when there are energy vampires in your life. And maybe they're nice vampires, maybe they don't mean to be vampires, but we all have people that are pulling us away from that inner light. And it might be going for a walk. It might be just literally taking a deep breath every day at the same time. It might be journaling. It could literally be anything. But finding those practices that remind you that you have value and that your value does not come from the work that you do or from your family or the roles that you play. Remembering that little light that was the kid that wanted to run up the street for no reason, the kid that would turn cartwheels, that kid is still who you are. And the more that you can intentionally on a regular basis return to that space, that's where all the strength lives. It's right down there in the core, in your essence.
Wow, beautiful. I could just sit here and listen to you. Unfortunately, you have platforms that other people can do that. And one of them I hear you're naked on. So we might get to that later. If you really want to get to the essence of who you are, you can do naked yoga with Jessamine. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Anna, I want to talk to you about kind of how we can have these conversations about strength and new years and new goals in a way that is inclusive to people with different abilities, with chronic illnesses. I know you speak a lot about that and obviously have personal experience. So what are kind of some of your pet peeves when these conversations come up that miss people in those communities?
So I'm speaking to you as a human with chronic illness and progressive disability. And I actually think I'm a pretty strong person, even if my physical ability doesn't reflect this, the strength that I possess. And I think we need to really think some of the language, like a lot of the language that happens in the New Year era, and it's kind of all the time, suggests that strength is something that is measurable by virtue of like, I can deadlift this, or I can hold myself in this position for a period of time. And certainly I am not a representative of all that is the disabled experience. But in my case, I have found it increasingly frustrating when folks really, really focus on, and this is particularly true in terms of body image experiencing, when there's a lot of reframing about being grateful for like what your body can do, instead of sitting with what is potentially the hard thing that is, and it's not potentially, this is a fact for every single human. This is a hard planet to have a body on. It just is, right? Like everyone has an opinion about bodies. And so when it comes to thinking about kind of New Year strength goals, I certainly have felt pretty left out when they are about physical ability. And I feel really grateful for being my age and being able to acknowledge that it really is not at all about me. It's still part of the money-making machine. And that being said, no matter who you are, your worth and your value and your humanity so far surpasses your earth suit experience, right? We get this one body and it doesn't actually really matter while it can be very, very cool to have extraordinary physical strength, I think strength is something that is that surpasses the body in every single way.
Wow. Yeah, that's really powerful too. And so James, I know, you work with a lot of high-powered professionals, high achievers, entrepreneurs. And because when I was trying to think about, how to fill out this panel with to talk about all kinds of strength, you came to mind in terms of, your work with alcohol-free coaching, but also careers. Like I'm thinking a lot personally about, new year, what are my goals for my career this year? Can you talk to us a little bit about how the people that you work with kind of find strength in their career goals and move forward? What's kind of your advice for them?
Yeah, well, again, I'll keep coming back to what I know best, which is the conversation around alcohol. And it's funny because a lot of folks who come to work with me, their motivation is to save their marriage or to be more present with their children or to lose 20 pounds. But one of the spin-off results of being alcohol-free, which is surprising to them, is how much they progress in their profession because of the clarity and the focus and the energy and the great sleep that they generate from being alcohol-free. So it's very rare that someone wants to stop drinking so they can do better in their career. It's rare that that's their main motivation, that they want to make more money, that they want to get a promotion, that they want to sell more products or whatever. It's really something more like close to home, family, more present with children. But I've had clients who've gone through 90 days of not drinking. And I'll give you one anecdotal story. A gentleman who's a realtor out of Boston, and he said that he did $250,000 more income in the 90 days that he stopped drinking, simply because he had the clarity and the focus and the energy to do 2 more deals, which are on average about $125,000 deals to him. So, while money is not everything, and that's not even the motivating factor for many of the folks who come and work with me, it is a beautiful result of having that clarity and being in touch with yourself and being calmer and reducing the stress and reducing the anxiety and frankly, having a better relationship with their wife or their husband or their children. Because when someone has a better relationship with their family, they're having a better relationship with themselves, and they start to embody being powerful, open, loving beings, as opposed to the doing, right? I've got to change my career. I've got to make this sale. I've got to do this, do this, do this. It's actually the being. And it's very challenging to be a powerful, open, loving being when you're drinking toxins that slow you down. So, yeah, I think that answers your question. I hope it does.
No, that's helpful. And when Jessamine was talking about finding her inner child and encouraging us to, it did remind me of some of the rhetoric I hear around alcohol-free lifestyle, where it's kind of like, especially if you're used to drinking as an adult, you take it away, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what did I love doing when I was 8 years old? And go back to that. And whether it's related to alcohol or something else, but if you loved drawing, or you loved singing, or you loved ice skating, again, we are still those people, and coming back to that. And one way that helps some people come back to that is removing alcohol. So I think there are some really cool threads here that I wasn't expecting to hear. So Jessamine, I hinted at your naked yoga. I'm sure everybody wants to hear more. Tell us a little bit about the why taking off your clothes in that way can improve your strength in inner and outer.
So much of my self-acceptance has come from really looking at myself fully and like looking at parts of my body that I have been hiding from. There are whole years of my life where there are like no pictures of me because I was so afraid of what my body looks like. And I don't think I'm alone in that experience. I think that's a pretty common experience, to whether it's the clothes that you wear or the way that you position your body, or like never being seen in a certain angle, never being seen without makeup, whatever the thing is. Like there's so much that we do to avoid just really seeing ourselves. And to practice yoga naked, this is multi-pronged. So like, first of all, I think practicing yoga naked, or as close to naked as possible, is probably like the oldest, it's a tale as old as time. Like everyone has always practiced yoga wearing as little clothes as possible, because it is the easiest way to really engage with your body and manipulate your flesh. And I think that because we live in a deeply puritanical society, it's not necessarily thought of as like, yes, I would like to do this thing. But when you give yourself the space to just actually look at and hold the body parts that you've been, and not just you, but all of us have been taught to really disrespect, there's an opportunity for acceptance and for, I would say self-love, but like love is such a complex issue. I don't want to get into this thing about like liking your body all the time. You're not going to like your body all the time, but to really accept it, it's helpful to really look at it. And practicing yoga while doing that is helpful, because yoga in and of itself is always drawing you back to yourself. It's always uniting your body, your mind, your emotions, and your spirit. And so being able to have a practice that, and then on top of that, a naked yoga practice is usually a pretty private practice. And so having a quiet space to yourself where you can really engage with your flesh and manipulate it and own it, because truly there's no possession more expensive that any of us will ever own than our bodies. So taking the time to really value this expensive piece of machinery is it just pays out dividends that extend far beyond like, what your body looks like, or how nice it is to say like, oh, I have a yoga practice. Like it will be a lot more than that. And I mean, just on a personal level, I had been practicing yoga naked for always, essentially. And I found that I was really only putting on clothes to take photos to put on Instagram. And I was like, I think I'm not alone in this. And that's been a really cool thing about teaching naked yoga online. You can practice yoga with me on my OnlyFans, and you can get the link if you go to my Instagram. My name is Jessamine. But in this practice of teaching, it has been so cool to me to be able to connect with other people who feel the same way and who are looking for that. So, but regardless of like how you practice, and maybe you don't practice yoga, really having a practice of connecting with your body without clothes, I think is one of the crucial little steps on the path towards self-acceptance that I think that the way that body acceptance and now body positivity has become a much more mainstream topic, but the mainstream does not usually leave room for this kind of nuance, and having a practice that is a little bit taboo on the surface, it can really unlock a lot underneath.
Great. Well, we're coming up on 30 minutes, so I just want to remind everybody who's tuning in to feel free to drop some questions in the chat if you have any for all of them or for specific panelists. And in the meantime, I'm going to do a few rapid fire questions. So, well, I just got a few quick, one sentence answers most, so we can kind of get to know you all better and hopefully leave with some more inspiration. First, tell us, what's one goal that each of you have for the year? Anna.
I'm going to make myself available to more humans than just humans that are in my private practice. I don't know what that looks like yet, but it's going to be great.
Great. I believe in you. James.
Yeah, I have a professional goal and a personal goal. The professional goal is we have a scientific study which starts next week with the University of Washington, which is studying 140 people not drinking through our 90-day not drinking process. And that's really exciting. And so my professional goal is to fill that up. We've got about 20 spots remaining, and just give the best coaching, support, love, power to all of our participants so they just have immense breakthroughs in their lives. So that's my professional goal. And then a personal goal is to practice what I was sharing before, which is to always be powerful, open, and loving, and be that way as opposed to doing those things. So it's the being rather than the doing. And so that's my personal goal.
Great. Jessamine, what about you?
My main goal is that I would like to drink more water this year. And I have all of these different little things in place to make that happen. And also I would like to be committed to learning. I think that the more time goes by, the deeper I get into my career, the more that I know that I need to always be on the starting line, always say beginner's mind. And I want to be committed to learning this year.
I like that. Well, that helps. That bleeds into my next question, which is even faster. What's one book that you read in the past year that you would recommend everybody read? Anna.
Honestly, in this moment, my brain is totally dead. And
Okay.
I've read quite a lot. Keep going. Someone else.
Who's got an answer?
The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Fabulous book about dealing with emotions and how we create stories in our heads and how to remain calm and powerful in the face of adversity.
Great.
I was having the same issue of like, have I read a book? No, I've like, check my Audible. I promise I've read something. No, I just finished The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama, and it was so impactful. And I really cannot recommend it highly enough.
Awesome. Should we keep moving, Anna?
Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings has changed everything. No, that's a great book. It's a great book if you are here for unlearning.
There you go. Bring it home. Love it. Okay. Are you early birds or night owls?
Early
Early bird.
Early
Wow.
bird.
All of us. Great. Well, second to lastly, before I kind of have you all wrap up with piece of advice, what would be your walkout song?
Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer.
Nice.
Levitating by Dua Lipa.
That is hilarious that you just said that, Jessamine. I am with you.
It's so good. She's
so good.
An icon. Dua Lipa for our time. And The Climb by Miley Cyrus is my other one.
Nice. I should have asked you all this before and then had you introduce yourself to your music, but we'll we'll do it again, or whoever has you on a podcast or webinar next should take note. Well, awesome. This has been so inspirational, really wonderful conversations and pulling a lot of disparate kind of fields together. There's so much overlap. Lastly, I guess, anything else that's on your mind that you wanted to share? And then if you can really, I know we kind of tried to ask this, but if there's really like one tangible thing you want viewers or listeners to take away that they can do this year to be stronger in some way. James, we'll start with you this time.
I'm just a broken record. Reduce or stop drinking alcohol will transform your life. I promise you. It'll just give you access to yourself that you haven't been able to access for, in many cases, years. So, yeah.
And if you want.
And the last thing would be conscious communication as well. Learn how to use our language and our words to consciously communicate with our loved ones and acquaintances. That would be a huge one as well, because that's been transformative for me.
Awesome. Yeah. And if anybody wants great support in stopping alcohol for at least 90 days and wants to contribute to scientific research. Sounds like there's still some spots available there. So take a look at James Swanwick's information, and Jessamine, close us out. Or not, don't close us out. You're next up.
I would say put yourself at the top of your list, that you are worth just as much as anyone that you serve, anyone that you love, and that if you put yourself at the top of your list, then that will make it possible for you to be there for them.
Great reminder. All right, Anna, close us out.
This could be the year that you decide not to diet for the purposes of changing your body shape and size, that you actually could invest time in developing a relationship with food that serves you and a relationship with your body, which is the longest relationship that any of us are ever going to have.
Well said. Well, thank you again, all three of you, and our audience for tuning in to this really wonderful conversation to kick off 2023. The discussion does not have to end here. You can join in and share your thoughts again using the hashtag Insider Events. Health and wellness are only some of the topics we cover at Insider, so make sure to follow us for our coverage of the midterm elections and beyond. Insider's next spotlight event is scheduled for February. Join Princess Keisha Omilana of Nigeria and Princess Sarah Culberson of Sierra Leone in a moderated conversation with Insider's senior lifestyle reporter, Michaela Friel. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and please take our survey, which should pop up on the screen anytime soon. I'm Anna Medaris, and have a great day and a strong year ahead.